Well, hi there, guys. It's been a long time since I've been able to make a video. Um, but the Lord was just telling me yesterday that I'll be making this video, so I'm going to go ahead and give you my five best cinematic experiences, and two of those are in my all-time best or favorite movie list. But the cinematic experiences is a different thing than just simply watching a movie. Storyline and acting. Cinematic experience includes the music, it includes the theatre, it includes the sort of pantomime style, goody and baddie drama type thing, that goes on. So I'm just going to do my best to go through them for you. And Jodie Foster is the one who stars in my number five all time best cinematic experience. And this movie spoke about a contraption that spent, I think it was billions of dollars to build, and you could actually travel through space into different space and time in the universe. And this idea, of course, in the 90s wasn't really considered a reality. But when I became a Christian, God already showed me that there was devices like this on planet Earth at that time. And he showed me the world leaders had went to a faraway place that was very cold, icy place. Could have been the South Pole, could have been the North Pole, somewhere like that. And of course, we just saw the past few 5 years or so there that the world leaders were indeed converging in the South Pole for some reason. But the movie Contact, starring Jodie Foster, is the movie that I'm speaking about. I went to see it with my girlfriend at the time, who I was very fond of. She, well, I'm not even sure if she's married at this time, but it was a very, very nice experience. If you're going there with someone who's close to you, maybe, you see the screen behind me. I have a projector, and I'm still showing the Ron Wyatt material. But sometimes, I mean, I don't even have a TV. I've never had a TV for over 20 years. Since the Lord showed me about, the programming and all that, that's involved in that. But sometimes movies can tell us, sometimes Hollywood and these other uh, movie productions do tell us about things that are happening in the world in a cryptic way. They won't really tell us, oh, this is for real, but they'll sort of say that, um, well, it's science fiction, it's sort of somebody just thought this up, But it's sort of like this, why would a country spend trillions of dollars going to a place just to visit it for no reason? Talking about the moon, of course. So these are questions that people should consider a lot. You know, you don't just travel to a place for no reason. That's never been done in history by man. So there's always reasons that people travel. I just read a really good book there by a minister who's a minister here in West Africa, and he's just telling people straight that they got the technology to make mobile phones from the space exploration. You watch videos. One of them, of course, a very successful video by Shield of the Sun, which talks about these things, the technology that's on the moon, the bases, the Mona Lisa on the moon, that the actual buildings that are still standing on there that are obviously pre-flood buildings, and you know, only when you get born again, guys, only when you get born again can you possibly contemplate these things. God showed me a lot of things like this when I got born again, and my Christians at the time at the church couldn't relate to me. Thought that maybe I'd just been going to see too many movies, but when I went to see this movie with my girlfriend, it really confirmed to me that the visions and the dreams that I was getting from the Lord could indeed and were indeed, I believed, were happening at that time and still are happening, of course. And we still don't have the confirmation that these things are. real, but I believe they are. God's shown me them for the past 25 years. So Contact, starring Jodie Foster, very beautiful movie, actually, to go and watch. They're able to go to this very tranquil planet just to chill out in, and I think they stayed there for, I can't even, I've not seen it for a good over 20 years, but I remember that part of the movie. I remember the contraption, and that it had something to do with water, and the ball just passed down through hoops, and this was able to somehow um, manipulate the time and energy around it in order for the soul to travel through space and time. Very, very, very interesting. And as I said again, when you watch the YouTube videos today, they're telling you that there's devices like this, even more simple than this, like space gates and things like that, which I included in my novel Starstruck, which God showed me about. On to our next movie. Um, I won't go into all my cinematic experiences. Obviously, I had one or two girlfriends, and sometimes you don't get to see the movies exactly that you're going to see. But anyway, so my next best cinematic experience was definitely Rocky Four. I believe I was young enough to go and see Rocky Three as well, and I just remember that the spirit of that movie was like Russia versus America. It was very, at the time, um, it was huge. It was a huge movie. I remember the Russians didn't like their champion being associated with drugs and all that. And it was strange. I made a prophecy to my friend. I went there with my friend, and I made a prophecy that in the future, one of the greatest boxers of all time will be from Russia. And this was before even Doctor, what was he called again? Sledgehammer, or whatever his name was, Klitschko, Vladimir, came on the scene. And I think somehow, I'm not sure if a lot of these, I know it's Sylvester Stallone that wrote that movie, but a lot of these movies, maybe they have a certain way of looking into the future. But we know that the Bible says that the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. So I became a Christian when I was about 14 years old. So I think that movie came out um, around that time. It could have been before that, but it shows you that the Spirit of the Lord was ministering and had been ministering through me quite a number of times before I was even born again. And is that biblical? Well, look at Jeremiah's testimony that God knew Jeremiah the prophet in his mother's womb. So I'll just leave it to that for you guys. But that movie really inspired me to really think about defending myself. At school, I won a couple of fights after watching that movie. I trained seriously. It really inspired me to start shadow boxing and training, as well as other sports I did, like football and golf. By the way, is a really important one for boxing and golf are two sports that, if you want to be a really good boxer, play golf. Um, that's my recommendation. All the best, I think, boxers, they played golf, and a lot of the best sportsmen also played golf. It's good for balance, and it's good for striking power and balance in the upper body movement. Anyway, that caused me to defend myself. I think I was about 15 or 16 against a guy that was about 6.5 feet tall. Surprised a lot of people. I'm actually smaller than Mike Tyson. I'm not even 5'11". My favorite boxer is Rocky Marciano, because I just love the fact that he wasn't even 200 pounds. I think he was about 185, a little bit heavier than me, and he was a little bit taller than me. In fact, I'm pretty small. But I just love well, I don't want to talk about boxing, but that movie kind of inspired me quite a lot to um, train more and start thinking about defending myself. And when I'm here in Africa, you can get robbed at any given time, and you can tell my age, but by what I'm giving away to you now. My favourite movies are back in the 80s, when I was a teenager. So my third best cinematic experience, this might shock quite a lot of people. This movie, if you watch it, it's very good visuals, um, very good acting, but the actual deeper story, it was written by two Jewish men that really had the idea of creating a sort of an anti-Messiah type figure. And, you know, when you study the story of Superman 2, it's really talking about three individuals who are banished from a planet. So you can imagine that that's likened to the fallen angels that are banished from heaven, and they want to fight against the ruler of that planet's son to get revenge on him. So it's sort of like when Jesus came to the earth and what Satan did, and the fallen angels really fought against his tried to fight against his testimony and all kind of different things. So it's kind of like that, in that movie, I think Superman loses his power and all that, and but he defeats the the so-called fallen angels, if you look at it like that, with his intellect, as the Bible says, but not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of the Lord. Um, I just think it's a masterpiece of a movie. It's very, very good. I don't think it was possibly their intention to write a movie like that, but I think you could liken it to some biblical events, like the fallen angels being cast into outer darkness, and the archangel going to bind them, or in the inner parts of the earth or in the outer space. And the start of that movie, I think the editor's cut, is very interesting. Um, with the two rings and all that, and then they're cast into this sort of thing. It's like it's not glass, but I don't know what it is. Some type of prison, spiritual prison that they're in, and they go off and try and get revenge on the son of El, whatever, is it Kal-El or something like that. And obviously, there's connotations to the Mormons and all that. But if you look at it like from a biblical perspective, it's sort of like Jesus versus the fallen angels, or Michael versus the fallen angels, in a sense. Um, and I think that God has used that movie. And when I get born again, sometimes God has had me fly around the earth in dreams. Sometimes I've been praying for people, praying for countries, and sometimes God would take me in the spirit to go and minister to a certain country or someone in that country who's needing help. I don't know if anyone's had that experience before. I've noticed one or two people on Sid Roth who've had that experience, and certain men of God that team up and pray together, and God will translate them into a certain point of the earth to do a mission. So I think it's wonderful. Our Lord Jesus Christ, when he ascended into heaven, he really flew into the clouds like Superman, and that's what we got to look forward to at the resurrection, at Christ coming, and we've got bodies, we'll be able to do things indeed like Superman, and hallelujah. So that's what the way I look at it. From a Christian perspective, I know that it's got a lot of other twists and turns and connotations it's anti-Christian, but that's just the Bible says, to the pure-hearted all things are pure. So I hope that that's kind of my explanation of how God has shown me it, and God has also worked in my life as well, in a certain sense. And so we'll make videos in the future about. I want to make videos. The Lord's just been showing me about certain videos that the Lord wants me to make. When you get born again, certain demons are dealt with in people's lives, and I'll go through some of those in a future video. Hallelujah. So my next best cinematic experience, that was a mosquito. Um, as probably a lot of people's what they remember going to the cinema. Some of them dress up. There's the recent trilogy, past 10 years. But the 1980s was, I remember going to Empire Strikes Back, with my dad, and I remember going with a close friend, like a brother, um, to Return of the Jedi. I think the latter one was my favourite. It's really good. But I remember in particular going to it with my dad. You know, the second one in the first trilogy, and he just saw it as like a pantomime in space. You know, that's but he kind of knew that it's a good thing to take children or teenagers to movies to get their imagination going in a positive way and contemplating life, and seeing storylines as well. It's a very interesting thing that a lot of movies they'll try and manipulate things. A lot of them are antichrist kind of people that are writers and make those movies, but still there's a lot of good versus evil themes in it. Star Wars is pretty messed up in the fact that spiritually, you know, Darth Vader is very much likened to Jesus in some bizarre way. It's very difficult to explain that because through the storyline, but there is quite a lot of manipulation and probably witchcraft that goes on in these movies. But the experience itself, you know, seeing the ships in space and different creatures and different planets, again, I think the Mormons do talk about those things, but through my own experience of being born again, I believe that the fallen angels, there is activity by the fallen angels and by many of their children and by other creatures that God created in the beginning that they have links to other parts of the universe. And you know, specifically when I was watching one, I think it was the second one. I believe the Spirit of the Lord was ministering to me that I will write a story that's going to be more truthful than Star Wars. And when I got born again, back about the mid 90s, I wrote Starstruck. And I believe it's still available to download out there. But we'll see, it's in the Lord's hands. If that ever goes to become a movie, I believe that will obviously change the movie experience again. I think the last big one was Avatar. It's difficult to describe Starstruck, but it is a little bit of a horror, like in Alien. But at the same time, it just has so much truth in it, about I guess the fallen angel bases and different planets and such, which I'm still hopeful and prayerful that that can become a movie. I don't know if it did, that it would become the next benchmark in cinematic experience. Probably the last one was Avatar, as I said. As artists and creators, you know, it's good to be inspiring, but it's also, I think it's better to portray a lot of truths. Obviously, being a Christian, you know, that's got to be consideration, and obviously that's the reason why um, a lot of the big people in Hollywood and all that haven't picked this up, and that it's not been, I guess, my novel hasn't been, what would you say, promoted properly. It's one thing that I'm not really good at promoting, but I'm more good at creating things with my hands and my whatever, writing things, whatever it may be. Um, that's my talent, you know. Anyway, so one of my favorite movies of all time, really started like the drone in Star Wars going to the mothership type of thing, and it goes down and it winds around and all that, and then it zooms out, and then you see that you know, the movie's really touching on weather manipulation, poisoning of food, and different cosmetics, if I remember correctly. It touches on the greed of human beings, and it touches on very dark and deep truths of the people of this earth. And of course, I'm talking about Batman, the movie that I'm not sure if you could say that it made Michael Keaton as an actor, but really put him in superstar status. And obviously, Jack Nicholson was just always been a superstar for a long time, and that was one of his greatest performances as well. And really came from the sort of the raw comedy of the television series. and the comedy became a little bit more subtle in that movie. But I believe it's always important to have comedy in a movie to carry the story and for enjoyment purposes. And I believe it's really important to have comedy. It has everything in the right balance, well written. As Prince doing you know the music, and as the all the big cinematic orchestra and all that. Just the perfect cinematic experience, in my opinion. Um, so that's my top five of all time. So maybe one of the things that they say about that movie is that Robin could have been introduced. I guess that's the best movie. None of the other sequels came up to that standard in quality, in writing and acting and what have you. Just never came up to it. I think the Riddler was a rather interesting movie, but it wasn't as enjoyable as the first one because that character's talking about the internet, gathering information and all this stuff and mind control. It was very very interesting as well. But the Batman movies tended to touch on a lot of the things that I guess the elite were actually doing based on a lot of the inventions of Tesla and others, um, that are Black Op, and obviously Batman being the sort of anti-hero that he is, and of course, um, Batman is really based on a demonic entity, I believe, that's based in South America or Mexico or somewhere like that. It's like a Batman. It's just like a demonic entity, but they make it sort of an anti-hero in a way. Very interesting, but the storyline's very, very good. Very enjoyable movie. So, what's your top five, guys? Love to hear from you. So, till the next video, God bless you. Take care.